Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL Officially Unofficial, bringing you English coverage of the LJL 2020 Summer Finals, gentlemen. Initialize is over there. I am Mars Swan, and that's Nightmare over there. I don't know why I went like this and said you, Sam, but we are all strong, we are together, we are friends.
Like the strongest muscle.
My knee is not, as I managed to hit it on the desk in front of me, but that's what you get for suffering to my art.
He's trying to finish off a tweet. He's
it's not gone well.
Bad start to game 3.
Well, game 3 is upon us, gentlemen. And with how this series has gone, we saw V3 take a lead in that first game. It took them a few minutes, but after that 20-minute mark, they snowballed it into their part of the court. On the opposite side, in round 2, well, game 2 rather, not round 2, that's a few weeks ago. Game 2, Detonation FocusMe had a familiar draft from what we'd seen from them, and it went somewhat very familiar to them in their previous set, where Leona Shen just seems to be what they do best. Coming into game 3, oh sorry, go for it.
I think this is probably the most comfortable composition DFM could possibly have. Maybe switch out the center. Like that's it. That's prime DFM right now.
So what happens now with V3 being back on most likely blue side? They have got side selection, so they will decide that going into this game. But assuming they pick blue side, you have to imagine that Leona ban is coming in again, right, gentlemen?
Yeah, you do. And I think there also needs to be some questions about how are you dealing with Shen, because they dealt with it in the Siren in the first game, but DFM have basically gone, well, we just don't let you play it, and then what are you going to do? Your other tank matchups lose to it. Do you have something else to deal with it?
Yeah, but now this is the thing, right? Because when you're on blue side, you're kind of you're forced into banning Caitlyn. When you're on red side, on red side, but on blue side, you have a free ban at that point. You can throw it towards something like the Scion for DFM, or of course the Leona if you're V3. The question is, with this economy of bans being set up, what ends up slipping through that wasn't before? V3 tried it with Leona. I think they have to ban it for the rest of the series now. What happens to the stuff they have to let through? Yeah,
that Heimerdinger we do know from Siros could be coming out. Renekton from Ebby as well. Very concerning if he was to get the alligator, crocodile. I'm not quite sure which one of the two. I just know he's a god. So whatever he wants to be. There's a lot of picks, and there are high contested picks between these two teams. We haven't seen something like the Galio or the Karma coming out either from Ace or Siros, actually, as they both have somewhat similar champion pools and not similar champion pools at the same time. Are we still going to be very actively looking towards this top lane and jungle matchup between the next few games, potentially?
I think it's probably still towards this bot lane, but in the same sense that both the top laner and the jungler will be looking towards the bot lane. So, I mean, I know what you mean.
Bot lane, but with top lane.
The way to phrase it is, it's the compositions and how they affect bot lane. It's not necessarily the 2v2, and that's why like the jungle and the top kind of affect that. Because like Shen is always going to make his way bot at some point in that game because it's what his bloody ultimate does, right?
Yeah.
But then like if you've got a top lane which can get priority over him and then punish him, whatever. We saw in game 1, DFM couldn't safely go bot, so it didn't end up working out for them. Game 2, they absolutely did, and they did it pretty effectively.
Very effectively, I would say so. And over on the opposite side, for V3, what are we expecting to see out of them? They need to change something up clearly a little bit as DFM, when they get their comfort picks at the moment, specifically this Leona and this Shen, they don't really seem to hiccup at all. They seem very confident in their play, and as Nightmare was saying, very comfortable on this. Maybe the most comfortable they are. What can V3 do? What picks?
I mean, I think for what I want to see as a change for V3, specifically before we go anywhere else, blue side again. Just get on to the blue side.
Sure.
Force DFM to look at the Caitlyn, leave them with 2 bans they have available. If that means that Scion gets through, you're feeling a lot happier with the Shen. That, I think, is the big tool, and it is the advantage that V3 have coming through as the higher seed here.
Yeah, I mean, I personally would also like to see a Camille. I know we did see that hovering, but I think Camille's an effective one. Or, on the opposite side, we could see something real spicy, some ranged champions. Lucian's pretty good at the moment. If Paz has picked that up, it's interesting. It's not great versus Shen, but you can dash away from his taunt, so it just the dash of the dash.
I'm going to throw this out there. Basically, none of the players in the solo lanes are Lucian players, to my
I know, that's my concern and problem.
Yeah. And also the problem with like Lucian into tank matchups is just eventually you just don't deal damage to them. You just end up like.
But win by 20 minutes. Win by 20 minutes. It's fine.
Okay, all right. So that's the Japanese. You've heard Korean advice, which is, oh, have you tried not dying? Maybe you should get a better KD. Have you won more? Just win before 20 minutes. That's the Japanese advice.
Win by 20 minutes. That's the Japanese advice. And gentlemen, we're into the pick and ban phase, so take it away.
Thank you so much, Mass. You heard his advice. Pick the Lucian. What could go wrong? I mean, and the thing is, maybe he's right. Maybe we want to see something a little bit spicy like that. But you got to see whether they can play it. V3 ban the Leona. It's down. The Heimer doing the Renekton still not giving up. They can't deal with them. Understandable. DFM still have one last ban. Sion still let through. They don't want to give Galio and Set over to Ace. I completely understand that with how flexible Set is as well for V3.
Run back game 1.
But here's the Pantheon. Exactly. Its first pick. Do DFM have an option with Leona out? The Pantheon got so much lane pressure early on. The DFM go, well, we want Nidalee, we want Nico, we like these.
So
take it now.
Let me guess. Lilia LeBlanc. That's what I'm thinking right now.
Why is it? That'd be a really good question. I'm willing.
Oh no, there's the Ashe too, right?
Exactly, that's what I was wondering with. I think Ashe might be a better option right now.
I think you maybe want to lock in the Lilia right now. They also, there is like definitely an S tier class of AD carry still, and that involves Ashe, so you don't really want to let that go through. To the second round of bans, because that would be removed. Ashe is nerfed on 10.17, this is still patch 10.16, and of course it is the Lilia coming through, so maybe Ace will have to be forced onto a new champion in this draft, depends if DFM choose to take that away. I would imagine they're going to ban away the Sion in this last set of bans, though.
Well, Utapon goes towards his Jhin, he played it versus Sengoku Gaming, felt pretty happy on it. They ran Jhin Leona and got multiple 2v2 kills, put Enti in the dirt in particular. It's not going to be the Leona this time, but also DFM banning out the Sion in the second round. They don't want to deal with it, and I wonder whether V3 feel they have to ban the Shen here.
Shen, perhaps, yes. Trying to think what else they could ban away. Maybe they want to ban away something like Thresh or Nautilus, or maybe even the Bard as well. It depends what they think of that 2v2 and what they can deny away from various players across the map from DFM. Remember, technically, this Pantheon is still a flex. In fact, we were talking about how this was the matchup in last year's playoffs. I believe Ace played Pantheon mid in 2019 summer. Of course, that was just before Worlds when it was 100% Pantheon.
Pretty nasty stuff.
Very different kind of story, but technically it is a flex, and I know that over on the VCS, even Garma flex between those two roles too. There are players which are still willing to pull this out. And sometimes it is worth just having that in the back of your mind, just because even though it might not be as good pick in the mid lane, it might change up the draft somewhere else to win, because support counter pick can be very important in the bot lane.
That's fair enough, but what do you know? That Shen gets through. DFM looking to lock it in here, and they will do so. So, Ebby's Shen once again came through. We've had one game where it was quiet, one game where it was exceptionally impactful. V3 have some moves to pull of their own. They're hovering the pike, but I doubt it. It would be fantastic to see, and Hilasang out there would be a big approver, I'm sure. But I doubt we see that. Orianna locked in. Nymera, it's been absent in the LJL. Very few of our mid laners play, despite its priority across the globe. Right? Tell me about Orianna and why we haven't seen it.
Our best mid laners like to play stuff with mobility rather than playing stuff with their defensive capabilities and the peel back potential of an Orianna. Arya doesn't play it. Seros doesn't play it. So you're basically just kind of left with Pyrion and Dasher, who play it out of our top mid laners in the region. I'm going to go back to that pick in a second. The Gangplank's been locked in. That means that if you overdive into this composition of V3, Cannon Barrage comes out, Shockwave comes out. DFM need to stick the engage, because if they don't, it's a lot of disengaged tools from V3.
And they have ways that, Pantheon is effectively a ball delivery system, which isn't fantastic. And I suppose if Lilia can find her way in with her movement speed, Shockwave everybody into you for a blooming blow that hits everybody, I can see the beauty of it. It's just not the easiest to pull off.
But now you have to play the Orianna, which is an immobile champion. Does not have any dashes, blinks, or any of the sort, besides that flash summon spell, into that Bard, and also into the Nico and the Jhin. There's a lot of CC there. If you get caught by one thing, you are going to be caught by everything else. Ace will have to have his dancing shoes on, because there's not really going to have a lot of safety in this game.
Also, this is Jhin into squishies. There's not really a tank on the side of V3, and Jhin, for all that he is something of a utility champion, hit 3 items, your 4th shot eviscerates
crushes people. And the thing about Jin is that he works on an ammo system, but he does have the move speed from his passive, which allows him to kite up until that next charge energized proc at the fire cannon on his 4th shot. It means he can kite around and use that extended range to make sure he can kind of keep things at arm's length against this kind of composition, where he does do relevant damage.
Okay, so Oriana picked up for Ace production. If you wouldn't mind, do you mind looking up the stats at Ace's Oriana? I don't remember him playing it at all.
He's not played it this year. Absolutely.
And I don't know whether he's picked up in previous years.
And this is the thing, right? You know when TF was huge pick ban, and Oriana has been pretty high presence too in a lot of the world. I never thought they were Ace champions because Ace, as we said, not great in lane. And and I know there's something to be said about casters. We set narratives for players.
Sure.
Just go look at this guy's CSD at the 10, 15, right? It's not great. He is the person who will just leave his lane, teleport. We saw that in the last game. He teleported top for that dive. He just tries to get out of lane, and he falls behind sometimes because of it, but he hopes that he gains enough in the skirmishes that it doesn't matter. Oriana and TF are laning champions. You need to have a certain baseline effectiveness as I know how to position well, control my wave, and get CS and take good trades. He's not necessarily been that player, so let's see what he can do on the Oriana, because that tends to be the MO of that champion.
Okay, so Ace has picked up the gauntlet. He's gone for a champion which does need a baseline laning strength to it. We've called Ace out on this before.
And you know why we've been saying that?
Yeah.
This is his first ever Oriana game.
And how many mid laners can you say that about?
Ace has
been playing in Professional League of Legends for a number of years, guys. He's not a new player. And the fact that he has never picked up Oriana, we ought to raise a few eyebrows. Picking it out here in Game 3 of the finals. Game 3 of V3's opportunity to head to Worlds. They have been so good this split, but they've dropped a game. They've pulled out some new tech for this team. Time to see whether it works out.
And so Ace has played a number of champions. This guy's pulled out some weird stuff. The Rumble mid when he was in meta. He's played a lot of J Smith. That's been one of his go-tos. He's played 34 different champions over his career and never played Oriana. That seems so antithetical to me because Oriana is meant to be one of those champions you learn how to play mid lane on. It's about positioning, learn how to use a big team fight ult and your laning presence. How do you auto attack in lane? How do you position all this stuff? Either way, it's something new out of Ace. He's gonna have to show something a bit new versus Seros' well-known Nico at this point. It's not gonna be an easy ride for him in this lane.
Keep our eyes on it. There's trading in the bot side. Gang and Reiner at it once again, but this time it goes a little bit more even than the first game that Pantheon came out and forced the cleanse early on out of Unipon. Both bot laners take a bit of a chunk out, and there is a 4th shot swirling around for this Dark Cosmic Jin, and Black Hole doesn't come out quite yet.
And as we said, that level 1 Pantheon with the charged up passive gets that empowered shield vault, gets the 3 quick auto attacks afterwards to proc, to press the attack. Means a lot of bursts can come out even from level 1 from this duo where you do end up getting that first burst and chase down with the slows from Ashe. Doesn't happen this time, as you were saying. So DFM doing a bit better in that 2v2 than maybe we'd expected.
Good chunk from Ace there, but he's burning through his mana already about a half there, and he's not running anything like the corrupting potion here, so has to be a little bit aware. Oriana can overuse her mana early on in lane if she's looking to trade too hard.
Well, I mean, the thing is though, like Ace plays Syndra, and that's one of his favorite champions.
He really does.
There are similarities between Syndra and the Oriana, and particularly nowadays, Syndra has a lot of mana issues. If you don't know how to control your mana on that champion, well, it kind of sucks. So hopefully he has some transferable skills on that. However, I think we've touched enough on this mid lane. Let's see what's happening around the rest of the map. Both junglers power farming. It is once again Boogie skipping out on the Krugs, instead missing out and going for every other camp. Means that Steel will be a camp ahead, and both of them, however, will be on the same side of the map. Boogie will get first crack at this top scuttle. Looks like Steel will be heading maybe towards the bot side one. At least for this time, not going to get bots double scuttle like he was in game 1.
Pantheon, though, is in the bot side river, and you can see Gang looking to come over as well. See how that goes, and see Gangplank into Shen. You can parlay trade and do pretty well. Shen has options with the Spirit's Refuge to block some stuff, but it's just lower. It's just so much lower cooldown the parlay than the Spirit's Refuge. So it is generally speaking a winning lane matchup for Gangplank. Just the stats, shall we say, of solo queue in particular don't really favor the GP. Well, ironically, the later the game goes on, probably because GP is just a harder champion, frankly.
Yeah, in some ways, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the stats myself.
I did a little while ago, basically, because Broken Blade was picking it a lot into whoever Shen it was.
You do get a free lane in terms of scaling up. Plus, also, Shen doesn't want necessarily to be the person with the focus on his lane. We talked about that again in game 1 with the Shen into the Sun. You just don't impact that lane. You get to cleanse out of the taunt, run away, you get to slow him down, kite away with the barrel slugs, and of course your ultimate too. You do have a middle of top lane pressure to that lane, so I have to see what Steel chooses to do, because these junglers have been very, very active on the map early on into these games.
See as well, first back starting to come through. Seros goes back a little early. Ace does come back with a second Doran's ring and some boots to his name.
Maybe, you know, being
irritated.
Being tricksy.
Still
he's going to do it again.
And that's not a fantastic spot for this
wait,
wave.
no, but Ebby's kind of messed that up. He's not going to end up freezing that wave, I don't think. There's a lot of battling. He's going to have to chunk this out right now. Maybe we can talk back to the wave in time.
Should be. He did lose a cannon doing this, which is a bit of a bad news for him, but might force the teleport at least. But it's under tower now. It's a bit frustrating. And there's the teleport out.
So I think maybe, it would have just ended up freezing just about there. So it forces the teleport out of Gangplank. He's not walking back to lane. That's okay. He'll have his ultimate. He can affect the map. Of course, Shen will too, and he brings his body with him. Supposed to that would be so weird. Fire Gangplank's body out of the cannon.
He's joined the circus. He's done with being a pirate. He's decided he's going to be the amazing, those cannoneers. What are they actually called? There's going to be a name for that.
I'm sure there is. I am not knowledgeable enough on that or circus acts in general to make a comment on that. We've heard of Death's daughter. Now this is Death's father. Gangplank comes rocketing across the map.
He does. And either way, we don't see Gangplank launching himself from a cannon quite yet. Does land a barrel chain there, which Abby is really sad about. And does take a bit of a chunk. He has yet to back, actually, so maybe I'll be looking to do that fairly soon.
Boogie's been doing this a couple of times. He just comes mid with Lilia, and he just cues the wave, W's it, and just gets a lot of quick wave clear to make sure his mid lane has priority for the next thing the team wants to do on the map. V3 tends to be quite on the same page about those plays. However, they will not have the opportunity to contest this Cloud Dragon, the first one of the game. It will go down to DFM. Remember, in the first game, it was the Soul which was so impactful for V3 to close out that game. Cloud Dragon, Cloud9.
Indeed.
Go on, Unipom.
Well done.
I appreciate your remote game.
Well done. That's good. It's good. That's a good remote game. Ironically, of course, the C9 did not manage to make Worlds, which is probably not a good omen here.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sad about that, especially after the spring split that C9 had, especially after the start of their summer split.
Remember the parallels we were drawing between V3. They went 9-0. They were on the win. They were the LJL win streak team.
Yeah.
They were the last undefeated team before UOL had their undefeated split over in the LCL. So unfortunately, not quite matching that record, but still something to be very proud of there.
Not exactly. They not quite managed to do that, but the gold lead, pretty damn even, pretty early on to the game. No first blood as yet. Been a bit of a slow one thus far. The one big difference maker is, of course, that Cloud Drake over to DFM right now.
And the other difference is, as much as we were talking about GP into the Shen, it's not like Shen's behind the CS.
No.
This wave is on. I wonder if this is a wave crashing in top lane. I didn't see exactly what was happening. But that's still a CS advantage for the Shen. That is not what you expect. Sure, you get some pressure, but it's not like he's managed to go up and auto-attack the tower. It's not going to have any plates coming down. So Ebby doing pretty well. And very much, at the very least, matchup.
Just managed to get a deep pink ward onto the blue buff of Boogie. Ace teleporting back to mid lane. Seros gonna walk his way back by the looks of it.
And this has always been a bit of a question to ask what your solo laners want to do. Do you want to save your teleport for the next play, or do you want to use it to reset? A lot of the time in mid lane, you can set a reset on a cannon minion wave, and you can start walking to lane on that. Seros has been happy to leave this one wave. He's still ahead in CS. And keep his TP for the next play. And remember, in that last game, Game 2, the big turning point play was the teleport spot lane from DFM to turn around a gank from V3's Lee Sin. Of course, they don't have that this time. They got the more farm-heavy jungler in the Lilia. They feel less pressure to do so. Really, we've yet to see the first big jungle play.
All right. Archer there did get level 6 before Utapon, meant he could step forward and get himself a little bit of that CS lead from the way that lane has been playing out, and they've roamed up earlier, have V3 to this Herald stop, but DFM don't want to go quietly. Seros here at level 6, but he's got the level 6 ultimate mark. They're both far past that. The mid laners could definitely look for this engage, but this Rift Herald already just about gone, and V3 secured. That's the Ash Arrow out. It's a Shen ult down, but the shockwave is massive, and Ebby cannot come through because the jungler just dies before the channel can complete.
DFM were posturing around the Herald, trying to find something of an engage, but you're against the Ashe. You don't have any cleansers besides on Youthpon, and it is, of course, Steel that goes down. Remember this guy against Sengoku yesterday in that lower bracket final match was the guy getting first blood onto the enemy jungler every single game. It's the Ashe ult from out of vision. It's close range, not the highest duration of CC, but it doesn't matter. It chains into absolutely everything else, and the kitchen sink from V3 absolutely put into the dumpster.
That's good news for V3. They come out to a slight gold lead as a result of it. They have a Herald and Infantry as well, and DFM are licking their wounds at the end of it. Good work from Archer to set that one up. Good Shockwave to follow up from Ace.
It's a fully assisted kill too, so anyone running that domination tree on their runes will get one of their Hunter rune unique kills stacked up. That can always be quite important. We talked about that from the Shen with the Ultimate Hunter in that last game. It does apply, of course, to a number of champions in this game too. Potentially Boogie running that Dark Harvest. I'm not sure which one he's running. You see Pantheon steal away the big raptor. Rhino with the, he's just, it's sending a message, Sam. It's about sending a message.
Rhino could be in spot of bother here, though. He does put the pink wall down, but he's going to get the flash because of the Temper Fate coming out. Now Archer in a spot of bother here, caught under tower, but...
Haha, guys, it's about sending a message, guys. Haha.
Left lane meant the gang got 6 first and punishes Pantheon trying to come back to lane.
And remember that Bard, of course, gets extra XP from picking up his chimes across the map.
Yep.
So that's also another thing which does benefit that champion in that roaming playstyle. What are we going to be fighting over next? Probably going to be that dragon. It's in 50 seconds. It is rarely a good idea to give over 2 early dragons to any team. It does give them that win condition of a dragon soul later into the game, which does so often turn the game. This time it will be between an ocean and a mountain soul, both of which are very valuable to DFM. Maybe the mountain soul is not something which V3 would covet quite as much, but still not something they want to give over to DFM for free.
I think that is a fair cop. Abby finds a taunt, but it's immediately turns away from it. But the autos afterwards definitely stinging there from the Shen. And at this point as well, Infernal Drake about to spawn in about 20 seconds, but there is no teleport available for Ebby. Will not quite be available for Paz unless V3 can stall for a moment or two. They're going to summon Herald in mid and look to buy the priority. That's the counterweight we've been talking about.
Yes. Counterweight, it balances out where you would normally put a champion on the map. It gives you pressure on that tower. And of course, with it being before 14 minutes, Asher flashed away from. Okay, I was talking about plates with Asher, talking about ultimates no longer available for Archer now, but Gang will be playing without his flash.
Seros actually in a spot of bother. He's going to find himself in the face of a Pop Blossom, does have to flash away. That is the flash out of this Orianna, but she does still have Shockwave. Steel now roaming down. Gang over the back of this wall. Could be looking for something. That's a Tempered Fate that goes wild, but now they're going forwards. Gang in a spot of bother. Remember, he has no flash. Right here, but the teleport coming through. That will be Seros to be the backbone. Oh my god, the Pantheon is just gone. 4th shot claims that life, and it is now a man advantage for DFM. Ebby is down here as well. The Stand United was used. And that means that DFM get to come in on top of it. They're teleporting in. GP will be here, but he's not actually the most impactful teleport right now. It's secured by Jin, of all people. And now the disengage comes through from DFM, who do secure their second.
I don't get what that teleport was going to do. Now Paz has to play without that. Global doesn't end up going towards top lane. He could maybe, I don't know what he's going to do the rest of his time now. But by God, Rhino was broken in half. He ends up shielding a lot of damage with that E. But then the 4th shot comes through, the spear from Nidalee comes through. It is an insane amount of burst damage. The poor lower level support Pantheon just has no way to deal with that amount of damage. Going back to the replay, Gang is looking for the play. We've seen a lot of ultimates invested before, so you know there's no Ashe ult at this point. There is the Lilia ult, but the Dream Dust is only applied to that single target. Ooh. And yeah, Rhino just kind of drop kicked through the floor. It wasn't
even a full shot, it was just spear a regular shot.
In that case, it could have been worse, and that's rather terrifying.
It's a little bit, and that brings Utapon into a happy space. He's been down a little bit of CS. That's partly the way that Ashe sometimes is in lane, and she's pretty oppressive on this patch 10-16. We're a little ways away from that, of course, on live, but this is the patch the playoffs is on, and you can see V3 here in the Goon squad looking to get onto Ebby in the top side, and he's wisely beginning to back away, saying, I have no idea where V3 are. I need to be a bit aware, but instead it'll be just the red buff steal for Boogie, who does get in. Junglers managed to stay relatively even. Both of them do farm exceptionally quickly. Seros standing off the bot side of the map, knowing that he could be in a spot of bother. Pantheon won't find all that much. And all the while, Steel's down here, stealing away some Raptors. That was at least a Raptor steal from Archer, but nothing more to be found. Boogie still hanging around this top side, though. Connected with a play. Swell seed dodged away from an Ebby will back out.
And remember, this time they don't. I mean,
They
Boogie's
still going for
he's
this?
just doing the thing, I guess. He's just annoying him. He makes sure that Ebby is not going to be able to collect any of this wave. It's another plate over to the GP, which is nice. 3 of them taken in that top lane. Of course, that was not the target of the Herald. That was the mid lane tower, which was used that on, I believe. And so, with the Herald used, with the plates taken in various lanes, it is still a gold lead to V3, but slimly the Dragons over to DFM.
Ebby's come back here. He really doesn't want to just see this, and I understand why, but at the same time, it's looking a little bit risky. But now DFM have reset and are coming up themselves, just scouting up this red side jungle. But I'm afraid to say, Steel, Boogie has done your namesake and taken the whole top side jungle there.
Even in fun though, these junglers farming up an absolute treat. Extra 500 gold compared to DFM into the pockets of V3 from those players. We were saying 3 in the top lane, 3 in the mid lane, which were collected. Whereas it was more on the bot side focus for DFM. However, no plates available, but Herald is. DFM have used this relatively well over their last couple of series. They managed to get pretty high value Heralds when they have been available.
Magical journey. Tower has been silenced. The cannon barrage is coming out, but he's flashing. He's diving. The exhaust comes out. The kill comes through. But wait, here comes Lilia, who does get the gang back, and that's a fantastic shockwave. The teleport wasn't even used, but Boogie, what a little play up in that top side to turn that around. It's a 1 for 2 in favor of V3.
The Swell Seed from downtown comes in for a huge 3-man sleep under turret. I was like, oh my god, Paz is in such a bad situation. The guard ult comes through. And we're going to go see it. I mean, I shouldn't be telling you how it happens when we've got that replay coming in to show you in bright Technicolor. He puts down the ult. I guess he's done his job, but look at that. That is
in the cannon barrage.
But it's also like the watch out eep in the sweet spot onto about 2 different people, or just about. I think you got to say it onto one person, then the higher damage still onto a number of different people. The hash ult flies by into the distance and carries on his merry way.
And DFM are going to feel sorry about that. It's like, we had this so clean, and then just Lilia goes, ha ha ha, Swellsy goes brrr from down the lane. It's like, how is that fair? What skill did that require?
Right, it's an E skill, Sam. E-skill. That's
most like e-gaming. This is an e-skill. I see. Yes. Email, e-skill.
Yeah,
that's it.
Cool.
And that has pushed Lilia up to a fairly significant gold lead. Actually, got a couple kills. It's still fairly even in gold. It's about 1,000. Actually, that's not fair. That is actually roughly 2,000 to V3 after that because they got first turret as well. That's actually fairly good news coming up to this Mountain Dragon fight because they'll have that advantage.
But it's not a game-breaking advantage to any one player. No. It's actually a slight lead to the AD carry on DFM, and the AD carry lead is often something you want to team fight around. We have that Herald summon in mid lane. We talked about DFM loving to break the mid lane turret with that, normally getting quite high value out of it. But it's only a chunk this time. They don't really get much off of it. It's 10 seconds till that Mountain Dragon. It's a Mountain Rift. Boogie might get caught.
Oh, he takes the slow, has to flash away, and that's fairly sad news. Fate catches 2. Archer and Ace are now in trouble. Ebby comes in for the taunt. It's on to Archer flashing away. The shockwave isn't enough, and Italy claims the life of the AD carry, but now Utah on the back line calls out the curtain call. They want an encore. One more shot. Just chunks Ace a little bit, but a little more to be found at this point of the game as well. So he comes rolling through, but not a lot found. Seros clone walks forward, little else though, and Gang and DFM will walk over to this third dragon because they have claimed the life of Archer. Burning a lot to get onto him, but it does work. Boogie over the wall might be looking for something, doesn't quite find it. The rest of DFM now retreating to come and secure their mid lane turret.
I think that was the Dark Harvest coming out. And speaking of encores, do you want more? It's the third dragon to DFM. Got themselves onto that Mountain Soul point, which we did say V3 really did not want to give to DFM. You do have a tank in the top side from DFM who will benefit a lot from this extra resist. We already see Merc treads coming through for various members. There's a lot of ways that this can buff up these individual champions of DFM, particularly the high damage team of V3, and then spoiling for another fight.
Teleport coming through. Seros is here. He's throwing out the twin shadows. That's a lot of slows. He's looking for more. That's the GLP down as well. Ebby's into the backline. There's a Pop Blossom as well, but he's taken back. It's 1 for 1 right now. That shockwave disengaged that Pop Blossom beautifully. beautifully, 1-for-1, but good lord, that was getting close.
What did we mention about V3's comp in regards to diving teams? If you go too deep, the shockwave, the cannon barrage come out. Ace gets out with a bit of mobility from that
It's the tempered fate and the dissonance.
Dissonance, that's
Dissonance
the one. I was like, Distortion, no, that is not the LeBlanc. That's what he's been playing the rest of the series, but still making it look like he does have that same fancy feat as the LeBlanc. Gets out of dodge, but it's still an even fight, even with those plays being pulled out from V3.
Once again, V3 have managed to get themselves all the outer turrets, and DFM are still waiting to get them. At least this time, though, DFM have made the call to at least stack dragons in trade. And that's good news for them. They have that win condition available because the Mountain Soul for the likes of particularly the Shen is great news. It's pretty good against the burst of something like an Orianna as well. But there's a fair amount of consistent damage, which is a little better against Mountain Soul.
Speaking of the burst coming out from Orianna, going looks like for the Spellbind a second, has the Sword Boots too. Ace has been actually quietly succeeding quite a lot in this game. Is not fallen behind. He didn't fall behind like they did in the second game. Nope, with that LeBlanc versus the Nico, which was the second time they played that matchup. Has a lot of damage now, and that shockwave in the last fight, of course, did turn things around into that even footing fight for V3. If you get this full damage to Orianna, you are very squishy. You don't have a Seraph, so you're not running spellbooks. You don't have something like a cleanse or a barrier to go to. But if you hit that shockwave, it has been a story as old as competitive League of Legends.
Pharrell Lord out there.
Pharrell Lord, TPA in Season 2, got so many different things to harken back to. The shockwave can turn any given fight. Watch for the wombo.
Watch for the wombo is the word to the wise from my color caster. Keep your eyes on it indeed. And, he did play the lane really well. He got pushed out a few times, but the joy of running teleport means you can still come back to lane. And Seros didn't use his teleport to push his lane advantage. He wanted to save it for the teleport plays, which honestly didn't really come through for DFM as yet. What it has earned them, of course, is dragon control, which is great, but they're still looking for these outer towers. And that map pressure is going to begin to make things a bit challenging for them.
V3 have all three outer turrets, as you were saying. DFM used that second herald trying to break that outer ring in the mid lane. Didn't work. And now they are left. Bit of an awkward situation. Ebby getting slowed. Gets hit by the small seed.
He's just done for. There's no way out here. He's going to flash, but he's roosted in place over that. So actually, he flashes over and does secure the kill. But that's well played by the V3 top jungle duo. And Paz having a better game than we've seen in a little while. His sound game was pretty damn good, but he's got himself up a fairly hefty advantage versus the Shen right now.
And this is what Dark Harvest allows you to do. It does give you that extra proc of damage onto the single members, which you are targeting. Ebby, we have had this conversation about him. He is disrespectful in sidelines from time to time. He sometimes just doesn't understand the map state, which he was doing in previous splits. He was a monster in Spring. I believe is probably your MVP out of it.
He was, yeah.
And I remember in our pre-split predictions, I said that DFM would win this whole split because I can't get bet against Ebby. He's now set at 0-3. Game 1 was not a great look for him either. Teleport coming in from... There's an Ash shot too. Let's see what happens.
It's on to steal still. How did that even land? Channel coming through, but that's still going to survive. The stopwatch comes out, and Seros has a mother of all pot blossoms. The Orianna is dead. Paz falls too, and DFM ain't done yet. That was gorgeous.
V3 overreach. They try and go for a big TP play, but Ebby's stuck in the middle of nowhere here.
Takes a heal. He's still alive. Seros does get popped out of this thing. Starfall coming out. Where is it going? To the back end of this fight, but now Rhino's caught in no man's land. He's gone very deep. Boogie's not here to help. The Aegis assault comes down, but the Pantheon has nothing. And Utapon throws out the pistol, and the curtain call is here as well. What a shot! He claims another one. The sniper from DFM claims another life.
None escape his gaze. He gets the curtain call, gets a kill. There's 4 people dead, and out of nowhere, DFM take themselves a huge fight, and they're going to take themselves the Baron.
They are. Mountain Soul will be up in 10 seconds. V3 are teleporting in. They want to contest, but Archer's just not going to be around. Half HP on the Baron. Boogie is here. So is Paz, but Utapon is trying to keep them away. Boogie has got flash. Can he find his way? He's on vision still. Seros wants to buy time. Ebby going forward. That's a pop loss, but he's so low. Boogie goes down. It's a shutdown onto Yangball. Wait. Doesn't get it. Still managed to secure despite the shockwave coming through, but that got damn close. Orianna can do a lot of work, but DFM get the kill, get out, but they will not be able to contest for this Mountain Soul.
We were saying that V3 in Game 1 were not given a free victory. They were not given an easy chance to close out the game. It took them working at it. DFM take the Baron, but they have actually given up this Mountain Dragon I wonder if that's a mistake from them. We said that in game 1 about V3. They luckily managed to find a pick onto Seros at the end of their Baron secure as well, which meant that they could have a numbers advantage heading into their soul fight in that game. DFM choose to go for the Baron. They don't get themselves the soul. And this is how it all started. We have the ults coming out from the arrayed members of V3, but Saros uses the setup of the Tempest so well. Paz walks forward into it. Jen takes too much damage. Just everyone falls out at the end of it. They have the, not so submarine, more like a dive bomber coming in under the Ebby ult on top of Saros too. And the numbers advantage works in the favor of DFM.
That Grand Starfall was a little bit of a whimper there. Reiner ends up in a very difficult spot and falls down as well. And then DFM walk the way over to this Baron. Well played from them. And that is a blind.
Oh, it has to happen. It is almost tradition when Utapon is playing these AD carries with the longer range skill shots, stuff like the True Shot Barrage. I believe there was one game in spring where Utapon had 3 blind ult kills on Ezreal. This guy has made a habit of it. I know Wild Turtle's done it in the NALCS.
Here we go again. Wait. So that's going to be a sleep onto Ebby, who's taken very low, but the Pop Blossom in the bot side. 404. Make it 5 for Unipon. Enemy not found. It'll be 1 onto the Shen on the top side, but it's already traded, and that is Reiner very low as well. Boogie has burned his Lilting Lullaby as well, so that's a big engage tool. DFM stepping forward. They want to take this inhibitor turret. They had so much standing gold to take before this Baron play. Paz can't get close, and they will take the inhibitor turret. Cannon Barrage coming out. Can DFM get into the magical journey? There was a question. They've split up. That's potentially really risky. Boogie in the backside causing a lot of damage, but the turnaround's huge as well. And Seros forces the stopwatch out of Reiner because of the GLP, and now this Pantheon goes down. We flashed as well. That's terrifying for them. They've lost another couple in the 4v4, and now this inhibitor is about to fall as well.
Okay, but Ori is just up and available. We'll have home guards. Can they disengage in time? They can't stick around. Archer was not in range to follow up on anything. He's there stuck hitting the Baron minions. Utapon turns it around. Reiner has become separated from his team. And whereas the Pantheon game 1, we gave him a lot of excuses, which kind of spared his blushes. You know, he was the person being focused by DFM. This game, he is just overstepping. It's a number of times now where he has overestimated his capabilities, whereas Gang has been very much more so on form, as have Saros and Utapon in this game. We talked about blue side being very important. If V3 were to lose a game on blue side, they would then have to be up against match point for DFM's next blue side game, which would be in game 4.
From 75% for V3 to win to 88 for DFM. Blitzcrank has gone for a bit of a massive swerve here. Look at particular items coming in. It's a third for Utapon. We've not had all that much chance to talk about them. It's the Mikhails that's already in for Gang as well, which is massive for keeping, say, the Jhin alive, for allowing Steel, who's been hit by a couple of arrows, to stay alive, who's got a Zhonya's now as well. It's becoming harder and harder to pick people off before the Shenults come down, before the Zhonya's come down.
This actually might be an Edge of Night coming out of Utapon. He's got the Ruby Crystal in inventory. I think that would be pretty interesting. I'd like to see that.
Lethality's not bad versus squishy members either.
Exactly, it's not bad. And then, of course, you have yourself a Spell Shield. It means that maybe the Mikhails can go on to someone else, like Steel, in one of these fights. Versus Zhonya's, you then Mikhails into Zhonya's. A lot of ways for DFM to peel. I know that Gang was one of the guys building Mikhails first on support in earlier parts of playoffs. I think it's been very effective in the LJL, particularly with high priority on Ashe and Jhin, rather than stuff like knockups or huge AoE engages. You cleanse that single target CC, and suddenly a lot of the engage options are just not available. DFM have a minute to wait until their next crack at Mountain Soul, and V3 are getting priority in the mid lane and wave clearing there.
DFM use the magical journey to make sure they can now turn around. Steel just hopping over the wall to throw some spears out and see whether he can make sure that V3 don't have the easiest time clearing out vision. They at least secure this entrance from the mid lane into River there. That's great news. There's a lot of vision they need to clear out, but with the Umbral Glaive and Boogie around as well, they do manage to at least secure a couple entrances that they can at least start to poke into the river from.
They do. Boogie has got himself a stopwatch for this next fight. Of course, has the Leandri's 2, and Ashe has the 2 core items of Blade of the Ruin King and Runa's Hurricane. We've talked about maybe wanting to see the Essence Reaver before, but there's only so much you can gripe on a certain player without losing sight of the rest of the game. He still has some of his damage available to him, and Archer has been putting out decent damage when he's been given time to free fire. DFM have not really given him time to free fire, though, is the problem. Even though there are some ways to buy space with the shockwave from this huge damage Ori, of course, she can't feel for herself as well at the cost of that, and of course the Cannon Barrage.
Paz is in trouble. You don't get to eat oranges out of those. He has to flash and does get away, but takes a spin in the face as well. But that's a big deal. Flash down before this. Ebby's gone Not in, that's the clone. I've been baited. I was looking somewhere else. I was like, wait, Ebby's there? Why is he there?
Shen's fast. He ain't that fast.
I was
Maybe
Shirelia's with on Bard, so I wondered. Wait, got teleports coming in. That is the Deadly Flourish, but it's going to be nothing else to be found as once again the clone goes forwards. I ain't baited this time. So many zombie wards in that river bush as DFM started the Mana Drake is taken so low. Boogie's not here. He's being slowed Seros by so much time. This Mana Drake is all but gone. That is secured. They have it. Shockwave is good. But now the lilting lullaby coming out is on to 3. Pop Blossom comes out. Ebby gets Orianna. Somehow, some way. The Pop Blossom as well is massive. Shut down though. But Utapon is free. Firing. The 4th shot yet to come out. He gets another. And he gets that one. It is 5-1 in favor of DFM. They're teleporting in on this inhibitor. They want to end it, Nymera.
It might have been the objectives to secure the game, but actually it's more about the fight which happens as they take the dragon. DFM take themselves the game-winning fight. Ebby has gone to the top side. Actually, they are choosing not to end and just taking the top lane inhibitor, and Baron is now on the cards. Might have gone a little bit too early there, so.
They said they were looking for it, but it was the teleport down. I wondered. They get the inhibitor at the very least, but with Pantheon coming back up and Ace up too soon, they decide they don't want to go for that fight without securing the Baron first. They've at least got inhibitor, and DFM are well and truly in control of this game as we crest towards 30 minutes. They're going to have this one. They've got Mountain Soul, and what do V3 do?
What they do, well, so what they do is they don't face the 7-time LJL champions in the finals when they have the redemption arc happening for themselves. They had their dip in the regular split. They are the defending Sprint Split champions. They are the defending Summer 2019 champions. They have so much weight of narrative behind them, which of course only comes so much across in gameplay, but you could feel it here. The Shockwave comes across, but it is just as the Mountain Soul shield is claimed. That's like a good 600, 800 damage denied across the team, whereas Seros does not need to worry about that. He probably gets his full HP bar and shields over the course of that fight. He does die for it, but it doesn't matter. He set up his team. Utapon does more damage than is needed. Just about survives. DFM take control of this game and the series.
A bit of a savant, my friend. Edge of Night comes out, and Seros, dear lord, sir, that's what we call a team fight wombo combo.
And you know about that high damage Orianna build?
Well, I'll tell you why. She got hit by a Tangle Barb over the wall, then failed the flash into blue buff pit, which meant Ebby taunted her and soloed her out. She took 2/3 of her health bar from a Tangle Barb and to a Blooming Burst.
And their entire burst combo was onto shields. Onto the Mountain Dragon shields.
So frustrating.
This is the problem. You all in on this kind of build, and you look a little bit foolish when it doesn't work out.
It's not Death Cap second, right?
It's not Death Cap second. It's not a Seraphs. It's not anything nearly like that. Even a GLP would have reasoning for this. You could go for that. The Ludens came out, and actually we were praising Ace for his early game. It was working really well. The mid-game spike of the Orianna worked out relatively well for V3. It is not working in this late game. No one else has had the damage to carry these team fights. The barrels and the ultimates from GP are not finishing off enough people, and they probably won't for the rest of this game now with the Mountain Soul. And Archer with the Blade, the Rune King, and seeing set so far behind is not going to be the main carry damage either. V3 really need to find something.
They get the Mikhails out of gang, but that's it. Ash Arrow down, and this has become more of a problem. Deadly Flourish at a Tempered Fate will keep Vayner down, but they're going to, of course, the Cannon Barrage stop the disengage, but Ebby takes the mid lane tier 2, and DFM gets the disengage. And DFM still have Pop Blossom, still have Curtain Call, still have Stand United. They're not down that many tools right now.
And so it is going to be the inhibitor at the cost of that play. And it's going to be DFM backing out of the bot lane and reconvening in the mid lane where they do have to... Oh, it's torn in.
There is, but there is still oranges in Paz's inventory, and Scurvy is as easily cleansed as a taunt is, and that means the mid lane inhibitor turret still falls. Reiner taken very low by a spear of all things, and now third inhibitor down, 20 seconds on this Baron. DFM are here for Deathburst Flash! Taunt comes through, and that is the Orianna dead. Ebby with a monstrous play. Gangplank falls as an afterthought. Boogie is around. Reiner's into the backline, but the only star that is rising right now is DFM. You come for the Kings, you best not miss. DFM are on to the Nexus. They will move up to series point. They are looking to clean it up. 2-1 is the series score, and V3, you got to pull out more than this if you want to beat DFM.
Dread it, run from it, still it arrives. Detonation FocusMe take the lead in this series 2-1. I am afraid.
Well, We've got a lot to break down from that one, but to do it, we've got to go to the analyst desk. It means we need to take a swift break to collate our thoughts. But go nowhere. We'll be back in a few.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL officially unofficial analyst desk, giving you coverage in English of the LJL the LJL 2020 Summer England Finals. God, it's been a while. That match threw me through a bunch. I must one. We got Initialize and Nymera with me, gentlemen. Breaking down this Game 3 matchup. It seems so close. It seems so even. For 20 minutes, it could have gone either way. DFM did have a lead, but I still believe V3 could find it. And it just fell apart, and DFM started cranking a bit harder on their vice. And, well, they became victorious once again.
Yeah, I mean, the early game was really damn even. We saw Drakes go the way of DFM, turrets go the way of V3. And then 22 minutes in, DFM find a crazy team fight, including a blind snipe from Utapon, just get Baron, and then suddenly V3 start looking really in trouble.
It did, but let's first talk about where the differences around the map came, and we have to talk about the man that's played the same champion 3 games in a row. That's right, the Emperor himself, Syros, playing Nico, and well, he just face tanks teams. He just runs in ultimates and is landing 2 3-man ults consistently now against V3.
Kind of helps when you have a Shen. He's been playing these fights really, really well, and it also really helps when V3 get into that desperation mindset. When they're looking for the shockwave, they're looking for the cannon barrage, rather than looking for the fight that actually they win in some ways. They think that they've got the pieces to put together. It's just not working out. I guess we'll have to talk about Ace in a little bit too, and because of the difference between these two players. But Syros has been really on point in terms of punishing the over-aggressive positioning of V3 when they've been overextending to look for these big team fight ultimates.
I mean, that's what's really been impressive by Syros and the Detonation FocusMe team. They know when to juggle the team fighting. If they want to go aggressive, wait for Syros to ult, then go in afterwards. Do we want a 4-5-man? Do we want Gang to initiate? They had a lot of options, and Initialize, DFM played these team fights better than V3, just flat out.
They really did. There were 1 or 2 moments when I was seeing some lilting lullabies land where I went, this could be trouble. And we saw one, for example, on the top lane.
Yeah.
Right, that, you know, the Lilia landing a 3-man ult on the tower. Fantastic, but it wasn't happening consistently. And
True.
DFM had the Shen to give artificial tankiness to Seros. He's a frontline in the way that V3 didn't really have one. They didn't really have the best ball carriers, and Utapon was running wild with those shots because no one could tank up the Jhin.
And they didn't really have the ability to diverge any of that effectively. Let's take it down, though, to the bot lane. And it's weird to talk about Reiner in a less than optimistic or dominant fashion. This Pantheon was pretty suspect in a lot of spots, Nightmara, and I'm a little bit concerned that it's not what it's going to be again in Game 1.
In Game 1, we saw the Pantheon get a really good early game trade, get some pressure in lane because immediately burning the cleanse from Utapon Senna.
Exactly, yeah.
That was kind of... Well, it didn't work in this game. They didn't end up getting level 1, got out-traded, didn't really have the same pressure. They couldn't secure the double scuttle for their team. And then as soon as it came into the team fights, he was just completely on the wrong page with his team. He was getting picked off, using his Aegis rather ineffectively, and just ulting into the middle of no man's land with no backup, no support, no nothing. And then he ended up with no life at the end of it.
What are you picking Pantheon for, right? It's either kills in lane, you got a gangplank, you got Lily, you can definitely look for that. Didn't really find it. Or it's saying, I'm going to Grand Staff or somewhere else on the map and just roam faster than you. Look to get early objective pressure from it. Look to get picks elsewhere. Didn't happen either. And that is really problematic with Pantheon, who is supposed to be an early pressure champion.
Yeah, and this is first pick blue side B1 again for V3, and the pick this time didn't work out anywhere near as how they expected it. Obviously, that had an effect on his AD carry. Archer was playing from behind for most of the game, and that really did affect him. However, Gang and Utapon were more than happy to play that kind of lane, weren't they?
Yeah, I think they were. I think Gang and Utapon are more than happy knowing that the rest of the map is being very cost-effective with what they're doing, and they're all fighting well in team fights. They're not over-pressing something and then getting punished for that. They're just knowing what their role is within the composition. Gang had Tempered Fates forcing out various defensive abilities, catching at various people. We saw Paz get caught by a number of them, and you can't orange that away. That's one of the few things you can't. And then, of course, Utapon, he went deathless that game, and he did a heck of a lot of damage for a champion, which typically does not do as much damage as another traditional AD carry.
Doesn't do as much, but once you get a few items down on Jhin, those crits start to hit real hard, especially with Jin's passive. That fourth shot can be deadly.
And it also helps when you can just like blind snipe people.
I mean, I don't have that ability ever, except for maybe once in a blue moon on like a first-person shooter game where you just go around the corner, burst spray, and you get a headshot, and you're like, oh my god. Oh my god, for a split second.
Flicking their head?
What about if you don't see the head? Then you just click anything and you win. Just 5 head.
Is clearly what you need to do.
Yeah, okay. I need to ask you to pon for tutoring. All right, note to self, note to self. I'll try and learn Japanese before I do that, because might help. Gentlemen, DFM, Detonation Focus Me, are 2-1 up. V3 Esports, if they want to make worlds, they need to win back-to-back games. Detonation Focus Me are on match point, and we'll find out who's going to become victorious after this break, where V3 will face off against Detonation Focus Me. Find out if it's the final game, or if we're going to Silver Scrapes. Don't go anywhere.